Alright, so the first thing I'll talk about is parenting in After Effects. What is parenting? Let's say that we have a new solid layer, right, which is just a layer that has a solid color. I can scale it down and you can visualize it as a rectangle. Another way to create a solid layer but through a shape is, for example, to use the shape tool without having anything selected, and when you do that you're going to create a shape. Alright, in this case the shape is filled with a gradient, so you can click here and change the properties of the gradient just like you would do in Photoshop. So let's say delete that one and keep the white in the center. Alright, so that's going to be my gradient. Now here you can actually scale up or down the gradient. Now you can change the gradient type to radial from here, and this will also scale for you. And here it has a stroke, so I can change the color of the stroke and I set it to 0 pixels, and that way my shape would lose its stroke. Otherwise I would give it. Now by the way, you can click and drag on any of the parameters to change those interactively. Alright, so let's say that this is the star that I'm after. So here I have my two layers. One is a solid layer and one is a shape layer. Alright, so you can also create different shapes here. Rounded rectangle. This is the roundness value. Actually that's the stroke, and the roundness value can be changed by using the arrow keys left and right to increase and decrease the roundness value. Alright, so let's undo that. Now what I want to talk about now is parenting, which is, if you remember from 3ds Max, linking between two objects together, right? So you can do this also in After Effects. Before we do that though, we have to see this point here, which is called the anchor point. So the anchor point for the star is up there. To change the position, I would go to transform, and that's the anchor point position that I can change from here. Right, so the anchor point is very important for example, rotating, specifying the rotation center. So you go from here and you rotate around the anchor point. If I reset and I rotate, it rotates around this anchor point or this new position. So you should know how the objects rotate. Now, if I moved one of the objects, the other one is not affected at all because they are independent. How can I specify whether an object is a parent of another? Which means that if I animated the rectangle moving, the star would follow in case the rectangle was the parent. Let's animate the rectangle moving. So I'll go to the position of the rectangle and I'll check on the stopwatch. I'll move the time and change the position of the rectangle. Alright, and we can of course change other properties for animation, and we can change the handles for the path so that this takes on a non-linear path like this. Alright, so now that I have this, can I make the star follow automatically? I would go to the star, and here I have parent. So if I didn't have it, I would right click and choose column and choose parent, and this will show it back. Now how do I parent or link the star to the rectangle? I have two ways. I can either click on the arrow and here I would select from any of the other layers. That's one way. Another way is to click on the pick whip. This is called the pick whip in After Effects. You click and you release over the layer that you want to set as the parent. So now that we have this, if we actually animate, we're gonna see that the star will follow the rectangle. Now, does this work only in translation or in other transformations? In 3ds Max, the parenting worked in position, rotation, and scale. This is called transformation. Position, rotation, and scale altogether are called the transformations of the objects. In 3D animation, transformation is a huge thing, especially when you go into programming for 3D animation. Then transformations become very important. So far, we just have seen how to actually type in the coordinate values of objects, and that's the only thing we did with transformations. But with transformations, you can create many things. You can create, for example, if you have a rig, right, like we learned in Animation 4, when you have a rig and you want to move the rig onto somewhere, you would actually take the foot control and move it around. If you know how to program and you understand the concept of transformations in 3D, how vector math works and how matrices in 3D math works, then you can actually create a plugin where you would create your own footsteps and the character would walk on the footsteps. This is something available in the biped of 3ds Max, but in the future, if we go into mathematics and physics and 3D programming, we will learn how to create something like this from scratch instead of using ready-made things. So this has to do a lot with velocity, acceleration, position, rotations in 3D. But for now, we're not really going to go into that. It's much simpler for us now in After Effects because we just have, so far, 2 dimensions. And what we need to worry about is just the position, the rotation, and the scale in 2 dimensions, so far. A bit later, we're going to see how we can apply them in 3 dimensions. But all this is to say that transforms have position, rotation, and scale. So whenever we parent 2 objects together, if we grab the rotation and set a keyframe for it from here, and just go there and animate the rotation, you're going to see that the other one will actually be also updated. So let's move that one down here so that we can see what's happening. So I animated the position and the rotation, and I see that the star would follow. Let's try the scale. So I'll set a keyframe here for the scale, and then just go over there and scale down. And you see that this is also inherited. I'll select this keyframe, Control-C, and Control-V it here. And you see that all these things are inherited by using the parenting feature. This is going to be very useful for us in a few minutes. So far, it's just a way to make 2 things follow each other, right? And at the same time, I can grab the star and I can give it its own transforms. So that's the beauty of parenting. Like in Flash. In Flash, we can have a movie clip. We can animate it, and inside the movie clip, we can have another animation with its own internal animation, and both will be combined together. So that's very similar here. So we grab the star, we set keyframes for the position, and then we move it to the side, for example. Then we copy this keyframe, we paste it here. So now it moves away and then comes back. So this is applying double transformation to the object, which is the transformation of the parent and the transformation of the child. So that's how it apply parenting in After Effects. Okay, try it in 2 minutes and then